we know now, though, is that colorectal cancer has just become the number one cancer diagnosis for people under the age of 50.
Yes.
So we have to change that whole narrative and that whole mindset. But there's a lot of funding that comes from a lot of different organizations. Some of it doesn't fully make sense as to why they're within certain departments. But that's where our advocacy groups start to come into play.
But what do you wish that people knew more about?
I wish we knew the symptoms, and I wish we knew how to better advocate for ourselves. I think we all grew up with this idea that to push back against authority isn't always something welcomed, especially when you're talking with doctors. Want to believe that they know what they're doing. But all of the doctors we had here in Nevada, and he did 2 clinical trials in California as well, it was amazing to hear how they differed in terms of what they thought causes colorectal cancer, what you should stay away from, what you should try to eat more of or eat less of. And there's so much differing opinions that you kind of have to weed things out. But I would say the biggest thing is to advocate for yourself. If you know something is wrong, and Rob was not a complainer, he was not a guy that would even take Tylenol or anything like that. So when he started to say I feel like there's something wrong, trust that intuition. Don't Google it or think this is just going to go away and it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Colonoscopies are so easy. The prep is always a little bit rough in that sense, but in terms of the actual procedure, it's so easy and it's such a life-saving thing.
Hey everyone, this is Jonathan Marx from GoToHealth. I hope you're having a great day. We have another important topic to discuss. Recent data from the American Cancer Society shows that colorectal cancer is now the leading cause of cancer death for both men and women under 50 in the United States. We're not talking about 70s and 80s and 90s. We're talking about the leading cause of cancer death for both men and women under 50 in the United States. This show today is brought to you by Fight Colorectal Cancer. That's fightcrc.org. And the CEO, Angie Davis, says, for 20 years, advocates have joined us on Capitol Hill to shine a light on colorectal cancer and urge lawmakers to make this disease a priority. Our ambassadors bravely share their stories. They put faces to the challenges patients and families face, break down stigma, and understand why urgent action is needed now. Our guest today, Norma Flores, a caregiver and advocate who lost her husband, Rob, to rectal cancer at the age of 40, is traveling to Washington, D.C. this March. As part of CRC's annual United in Blue initiative, Flores will join advocates from across the country to meet with members of Congress and demand stronger federal investment in colorectal cancer research and screening. She'll also be featured on the National Mall, where her photo will appear alongside more than 27,000 blue flags, symbolizing the projected number of people under 50 expected to be diagnosed with colorectal cancer by 2030 if decisive action is not taken. You can learn more, and I encourage you do, at fightcrc.org. CRC stands for colorectal cancer, fightcrc.org. And before we get to Norma or request, please visit our website at gotohealthmedia.com, where you can see more than 270 shows just like this one. If you're watching us on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify, please give us a thumbs up or a 5-star review. That helps get the word out to more people. Thanks in advance. So welcome to the show, Norma Flores. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. So when your husband, Rob, was first diagnosed only at the age of 40 with colorectal cancer, what went through your mind, especially given that he was healthy and had no family history?
Shock. I think we were both very shocked by the diagnosis. It took a little bit of time. He had told me in October that he had started to see symptoms. This was October of 2019. And it wasn't until the end of January 2020 that he was able to get the colonoscopy, and we really had to push for it.
Okay.
So it was a mixture of emotion where you were shocked by the diagnosis, but at the same time, you felt relief that we finally knew what was going on. And you had that intuition that something was wrong. And so to actually have a diagnosis and see a game plan being put together, it's a whole package of how you feel. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. What were the first symptoms that Rob noticed that he shared with you?
Rob always had a nervous stomach, so we never really thought too much about it. But it wasn't until when he actually told me he was starting to see some blood in his stool.
Hmm.
We had an annual physical that we were getting ready for. So I told him, okay, next week, tell the doctor this is what you're seeing. And they said, oh, it's just hemorrhoids. Like his blood work came back perfect. His weight was good. We were working out 5 days a week.
Hmm.
He was fit. He was active. There was nothing physical in his appearance that would have shown that there was an issue, but it was that blood in the stool. But they never actually even checked to see. They just said, oh, hemorrhoids. And he had a 5 centimeter mass.
So when did the diagnosis move from hemorrhoids to colorectal cancer? What had to happen for that to take place?
We had a push. I had told him when he went into that initial appointment to ask for a colonoscopy, and they said, you're too young. There's nothing to worry about. You don't have a family history or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And over the Christmas holidays, we were back in Ohio, and he just had this look about him that just something wasn't right. And in the pit of my stomach, I was starting to think there's something else going on here than just a nervous stomach or something simple. And so when we came back, I strongly encouraged him to push for a colonoscopy. So we went back to the doctors, and she said, okay. She's like, I don't think you need something like this. And things moved very, very quickly. He had a colonoscopy on, I think it was the 3rd of February. And that Thursday evening, the doctor called, and he called us at like 8:30 at night and told us, no, the mass did come back that it was cancer.
And what was the treatment following that?
Things moved incredibly quickly. He started 4 weeks of radiation. So he had radiations 5 days a week. And he also started chemotherapy, but it was a pill form of chemo.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that for the whole month of March into early April. And then we knew they were going to remove the tumor in June of 2020. We went ahead and did that, and he ended up with a permanent ostomy as a result of that. They did a full rectal resection on him. And then he went back into for another 5 months of chemotherapy where he had the liquid form and then pill form.
And the ostomy that you just mentioned, that's wearing a bag on the outside. Is that what happens?
Yes. Yeah. So you have the ostomies that will go on your right or your left side, depending on what is actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
So his was on the lower left for the ostomy. And we had one meeting with a nurse after his surgery, and she said, this is how you do it. And you kind of figure it out from then on. But it was a life-changing situation. He had full mobility, and it takes you a minute. I mean, it was his body. He wasn't used to seeing something like that or having something like that. But
Sure.
what they can do with ostomies today is absolutely incredible. All different kind of bags. You can go swimming with them. You can go hiking with them.
Wow.
You can live a full life with these ostomies. That was really incredible.
What was the quality of his life as he went through this?
Rob did amazing. He had from 2020 into the middle of 2022, his quality of life was very good. He had symptoms and side effects from chemo and from radiation, but we were still walking every day. We were still playing basketball. We were racing each other, and he beat me every single time.
Good for him.
Yeah, we were still doing that. He had a lot of neuropathy, though, in his hands and his feet. So we had to start to be careful with things like that. But for the most part, he didn't look like how I thought cancer patients were supposed to look. This chemotherapy that he was on, he kept his hair for the most part. So it thinned a little bit, but it wasn't like he full on lost it or anything like that.
Got it. What do you wish more people knew about colorectal cancer and their symptoms and risks? I mean, now that you've been through this, and again, I just want to say I'm so sorry that you and he went through this. It's such a tough transition. But what do you wish that people knew more about?
I wish we knew the symptoms, and I wish we knew how to better advocate for ourselves. I think we all grew up with this idea that to push back against authority isn't always something welcomed, especially when you're talking with doctors. Want to believe that they know what they're doing. But all of the doctors we had here in Nevada, and he did 2 clinical trials in California as well, it was amazing to hear how they differed in terms of what they thought causes colorectal cancer, what you should stay away from, what you should try to eat more of or eat less of.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much differing opinions that you kind of have to weed things out. But I would say the biggest thing is to advocate for yourself. If you know something is wrong, and Rob was not a complainer, he was not a guy that would even take Tylenol or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So when he started to say I feel like there's something wrong, trust that intuition. Don't Google it or think this is just going to go away and it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Colonoscopies are so easy. The prep is always a little bit rough in that sense, but in terms of the actual procedure, it's so easy and it's such a life-saving thing that can happen.
So you were a caregiver for Rob. This was over like 3 or 4 years. Is that right?
Yeah, about 3.5 years. Yeah.
So what gets overlooked in the cancer conversation when we talk about caregivers?
I think everything. We were given an entire 3-ring binder when he was going into chemo of symptoms, side effects, all kinds of things that we needed to pay attention to. But there was nothing to say, this is what you're going to witness. You know, he was my husband. There was nothing I wasn't going to do for him.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I wouldn't have, I would have chosen to walk away or anything like that. None of that ever even entered into my mind, but it's hard. But Rob was really good too at balancing that. As much as I took care of him, he still took care of me. And that idea of just come sit with me, leave the dishes. It doesn't matter if you didn't vacuum today, it's no big deal.
Right.
And just to be present, I think, is the most important thing, to try to take care of yourself as best as you can. But I think any caregiver would tell you this is a sacrifice well worth it. You don't mind putting yourself second at that particular moment in time if that means that you're going to have another hour or another minute with him.
You said a minute ago that this was very hard. What was difficult about being a caregiver?
Watching from the sidelines.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately for us, and for a lot of people, he was diagnosed right as we went into COVID. So chemo appointments that I would have been at, you would have been holding hands, you would have been right there encouraging the way that I always did. I spent those years sitting in the parking lot in Las Vegas.
Oh, that's hard.
We weren't allowed to enter buildings.
Yeah.
But you're walking a path parallel to that person. You're seeing things and you're still trying to deny what it is that you're seeing and saying, no, it's still going to be okay. You're trying to encourage when you know that they don't feel good, when they know that nausea is setting in and appetites are being suppressed and things like that. So you try to rally as best as you can and know that you're walking a path similar, but there's literally nothing you can do that is going to make the situation better other than offer that hand, offer to rub somebody's back or just to sit with them or tell a joke, try to make something light and distract as best as you can as well. So you kind of wear multiple hats when you're walking a journey like this.
Norma, where did you find support during this period?
We found support in each other. We found support in family and friends. We're 2,000 miles away from our original home. So unfortunately, people who would have been around us for something like this, they weren't there. But we have incredible friends here in the city that became family as well. That even if it was just, hey, we dropped off something on the door or we're coming by and we were going to wave at you from the window, that was helpful in that sense. But we found comfort in each other as well. I think we had a good marriage. We had a strong marriage, and this made us even better going forward too.
My hat's off to you, Norma. You seem like a very strong, dedicated, devoted person. And I have such great respect for what you did and who you are and what you went through. Thank you.
Thank you.
What made you think about taking your story to Washington, D.C. and speaking directly with lawmakers?
So we really didn't know where to start when Rob was diagnosed. Neither one of us knew anything about cancer in general or specifically colorectal cancer. So I ended up finding Fight CRC in February of 2021, and I started writing with their gratitude team. So we were hooked into this community while Rob was still in treatment. And once he passed, I was still part of this. I knew that they went to DC every single year the year he passed, it would have been 2024 that I could have gone. And it just didn't feel right at that time.
Sure.
And then something in the fall of 24, when they put out the applications and said, hey, this is what we're going to do if you all are interested, it was a need. There was a physical need that I felt that this was a place that I had to be. And I think because we both are university professors, we both taught history, we're used to putting up statistics. And I think a lot of times when people read statistics, it's a really big number. But what I wanted to do in going to Washington, D.C. is I wanted to put his face to one of those numbers. He wasn't just one of the thousands that are diagnosed, one of the thousands that lost their lives to this disease. He was a full person who had a full life, who had dreams and plans of things that he wanted to do. And I thought by bringing that personal aspect to lawmakers was important for them to remember at the end of the day that these are your constituents. These are people from our community. We were not and are not, unfortunately, the only ones going through something like this.
Yes.
And to remind them that they are in a position of power and privilege to be able to extend so much aid and help to people, not just in the state of Nevada, but across the board too, with legislations that they're passing.
Let me give people the URL, the web address for the organization you're talking about. It's fightcrc.org, and CRC stands for colorectal cancer. It's fightcrc.org. Tell us about the organization, Norma. You said a little bit, but tell us more. What do they do?
The organization, it is run primarily by patients and survivors and caregivers. They are not there to market any particular drug. They're not there to market any particular form of treatment. It is basically a giant community that brings you all together at one of the worst moments of your lives. And it offers you a safe place to talk to others, to get that advice, to get that support. And it's wonderful. We had an amazing support group around us, but it was wonderful to say something to somebody and you don't have to explain everything that you're feeling because they get it. Yeah. And that, I think, is the beauty of a community like this. Nobody wants to be a part of this community, but once you find yourself in it, there are some incredibly beautiful people. There's so much hope that comes from it too, so much encouragement as well, that it's that extra lifesaver you didn't really know you needed at the time.
That's a beautiful statement. Again, folks, that's fightcrc.org. And again, CRC stands for colorectal cancer, fightcrc.org. So Norma, when you think about honoring Rob, what does that look like for you today?
This, telling his story, saying his name. I think the way that we approach grief, especially in our country, it's like colorectal cancer. It's a taboo subject. It's something we feel we have to tiptoe around. And even people say to me today, oh, are you guys coming? And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, because we're so used to saying it like this. And I'm like, don't be sorry for saying that. Thank you for remembering him. Thank you for still including him. So when I think about him and think about honoring him, it is doing this. I made a promise before he passed. He knew I was involved in this work. He knew that I couldn't stop with this work, even if I wanted to. We had learned too much. We had seen too much, that I felt that if at any point I could be a support to somebody else, that was something that I was going to do.
And that's what you're doing? Are you of support to other patients or their spouses or their loved ones?
Yes, this is what kind of dipping my toe with Fight CRC and moving beyond just the gratitude team and writing cards to donors. This is kind of that next step forward, is building up that advocacy. And sometimes it's sending a card. Sometimes it's just saying, hey, if you want to call and not say anything, I'll still be here on the other end of the line.
Wonderful. If you could change one thing about how colorectal cancer is handled in this country, what would it be, Norma?
Funding. We are incredibly underfunded. So if you look at, especially with breast cancer, the incredible strides that have been made with breast cancer over the last 20, 25 years, it has been absolutely incredible. So there are some cancers that have independent funding, and that's what Fight CRC, this is one of the reasons why we go to DC, is to ask for funding specifically from the Department of Defense. So right now, colorectal cancer receives about $6.7 million but we are competing with about 20 other cancers in order to receive that funding. When you have independent funding from departments like the Department of Defense, that money is earmarked specifically for you. So if you look at breast cancer, it's about 150 million. And we know what you can do with money. We know that money put towards research gives us incredibly, not just new ways of diagnosing, but it also opens up avenues for new ways of treating cancers. Chemotherapy is incredibly harsh on a number of levels for so many people, and everybody's different. So finding treatments that'll work, but it doesn't knock you out completely, would be incredibly important in this work. So yeah, I would say funding is the biggest thing. And I know we all compete for different things, but at the end of the day, we're still talking about healthcare in the United States.
I'm surprised you mentioned the Department of Defense. How's that related to colorectal cancer? I would have thought Health and Human Services. What's the connection there?
So Fight CRC is looking to encourage politicians in Washington, D.C. to include colorectal cancer research in what we call the peer review cancer research program, which is part of the Department of Defense. What we know now, though, is that colorectal cancer has just become the number one cancer diagnosis for people under the age of 50.
Yes.
So we have to change that whole narrative and that whole mindset. But there's a lot of funding that comes from a lot of different organizations. Some of it doesn't fully make sense as to why they're within certain departments. But that's where our advocacy groups start to come into play.
You mentioned before that you and Rob were both university professors. What did he teach and what do you teach?
We both teach history. He specialized in U.S. foreign policy. I specialize in modern European history and Holocaust studies.
Interesting.
We both taught world classes. We taught the American classes. Yeah, that's what brought us out here into Vegas.
That's great. Wonderful. So, Norma, is there any question I didn't ask that I should have asked, or is there a big message you'd like to leave with people today?
I think the biggest message here is you're never too young. Colorectal cancer for years was thought of as something you worried about when you were in your 60s, your 70s, your 80s. It was never something that we would think of people in their 40s or 30s or even in their 20s. If you have any of those symptoms, if you feel like something isn't right, don't sit on it. Time is of the essence. Colorectal cancer is about 90% curable if it's a stage 1. We still have survivors and thrivers that are stage 4 that have been with us for years. So don't let numbers keep you away from something like this too.
Thank you so much. Again, I just want to underline how brave and strong you are. And I know this has taken a lot, and you're surviving and you're doing really good work with what has happened.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for me to share a little bit more about our story.
Good. We've been talking with Norma Flores. She's a caregiver and advocate who lost her husband, Rob, to rectal cancer at the age of 40. She's traveling to Washington, D.C. this March as an ambassador with Fight Colorectal Cancer. That's fightcrc.org. It's the nation's leading colorectal cancer patient empowerment and advocacy organization. Norma, thanks so much again. It's a very touching story, and I'm really going to do the best I can to get as much word out about this as possible.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you so much.
Good. This has been Jonathan Marx with GoToHealth. Please visit our website at gotohealthmedia.com. We have lots of shows for you to watch and learn about. You can also watch us on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. And if you like what we're doing, please give us a thumbs up or a 5-star review. That helps the word get out to more people. Again, this has been Jonathan Marx. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again next time. And remember, go to health. God bless. Take care. Thank you for tuning in today to Go to Health. You are one of almost 10,000 people per day who enjoy the evidence-based health information offered by our guest health experts. You can watch us on our website and YouTube and listen to us on 8 podcast networks. Be sure to join Jonathan Marx in our upcoming shows each week. If you like our show, please share this episode with your friends and colleagues. You can subscribe to the show, join our email list, send us feedback, browse through the online store, and view our library of over 150 shows at GoToHealthMedia.com. See you next time, and remember to elevate your life with GoToHealth.